Good morning. This is Granny B from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I'm doing something totally unexpected today. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I had errands to run in town and I needed milk. So I dropped in the grocery store just to get milk. But they had an in-store special where they had marked down their cherries to $1 a pound. So I bought 5 of these bags. And in the past, when I've got cherries on special, I've put them in the freezer. But we're running out of freezer space. So Bruce and I decided that we're going to can cherries today before we lose them. You know, when a grocery store puts their things on special, they're beginning to get soft, and some of them may not be as pretty as they had been, so you have to work fast. And so we're going to take these cherries and figure out how much I got. And so help me count. 2 pounds on the dot. 2 pounds. 4, 2 pounds, and 2 ounces. So that's basically 6. 2 pounds. 8. 2 pounds. So we got 10 pounds of cherries. The first thing we're going to have to do is wash them and pick out any bad ones. And then we are going to can these by splitting them up and taking the pit out. I see a bad cherry right now. So see, there's a little mildew on that one. And that one's got some dimples on it, so it's drying out. But it would still be good. We'll can the good ones. We'll put these aside and cut off those bad spots, and we'll have those for supper tonight. But that's what we do. And it's going to take us a while. Ooh, there's a bad one right there. Let's see. So there's going to be a little bit of loss, but we'll throw those out to the birds, and the birds will enjoy them. So anyway, we'll go through this. There's another bad one. I'm seeing a few bad ones, but we'll go through them and see what we can salvage out of it. Still at $1 a pound. I'm thrilled. We'll see you later. Okay, Papa Bruce and I took care of those cherries. We pitted them and got the stems. We cut them in half, and there's our haul of cherries. I just have them in the oven just because my cabinets are loaded already. So we'll come back to that. Now, remember, we started with 10 pounds, and here's our pits and stems and the bad ones. And it comes to less than 2 pounds. So we got 9.5 pounds of cherries real easy for $10. I think that's a bargain. We're going to put this outside for the birds. The birds will eat the cherries, and then we'll put all the pits and everything in the compost pile. The hardest part about canning is remembering to get all of your stuff together, because there's lots of steps. It's really an easy process, but it's an involved production. One of the things that you're going to need is a lid lifter. You don't need it. You could use tongs, but here's one of my little tips. My little magnetic wand for lifting the lids, I keep right up here on my hood vent, and that makes it real convenient. I have already washed it. You're going to need a ladle, and you're going to need a jar lifter, and you're going to need a canning funnel. You're going to need jar rings and lids, of course. And these are already warm. I'm going to move them out of the way. The reason you warm your lids is so that little rubber ring will get soft. The softer it is, then the easier it is for the ring to make a seal. And when you're just water bath canning, not everyone is going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this. This was just a mayonnaise jar. You can use mayonnaise jars, or this was canned fruit. This was olives. You can use these oddball jars as long as they have a good rubber tip inside, good rubber ring inside, and if they're still good and clean. This one was olives. We're going to use it today if we need to, because I want to get rid of all of the odd jars that I can, and then that will leave the actual canning jars for things that have to go in a pressure canner. But so I tried to use up my odd jars. Here was one that had salsa in it. But as you can see, it's got a real nice ring, so I'm going to use that one first. Another thing I'm going to tell you about rings and lids is I keep all of my old lids. Here's one that has a whole lot of discoloration on it. I'm not going to use this for canning, but it'll hold things like beans or peas or craft supplies. Don't throw them out, use them. But anyway, use these for other things and save your best ones for canning. Save your new ones for canning. So, I've got these over here ready to go. So, here I have some sugar water, simple syrup. And here I've got my water bath canner going, getting ready. And so we're just going to start putting the cherries in the jars now. I'm going to use the cold pack method. That means my fruit is cold rather than partially boiled. And so I'm just going to start putting them in. So this is the Tostitos jar that I wanted to use up first. And so I'm going to fill it first. You need to leave about 1/2 inch of headspace, which this one is just about right with the 1/2 inch headspace. Now the next one I want to use is this one, because it was a mayonnaise jar. And I'll use up these odd jars for water bathing and save my actual canning jars for pressure canners. I'm going to use this one next. It had fruit salad in it. This one had olives. We're going to use it up. Here's another mayonnaise jar. We'll use it up. So I'm out of my odd jars now. Here's one more. This one had instant coffee.
Hey.
Speaking of coffee, my darling poured me a cup and I haven't had any of mine yet. So, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pints. I only have room to do 7 in that canner, so now I'm going to a real canning jar. So 7 pints. We're going to set this aside for a minute. We're going to bring the hot syrup over. This is a light syrup. This is, it's about 3/4 of a cup of sugar for 1 quart of water. Headspace is important because when you do the water bathing, the expansion causes the liquid to rise, and it has to push out the air, but you don't want it to rise so much that it comes out of your jar. So that's what we're doing when we're trying to get the correct headspace. You also need to go down and make sure that you've got as many of the bubbles out as possible. They also make a tool for that. Clean your rims off. And you pop on your lid and you just tie them, you just tighten them finger tight. You always clean your rims because you don't want anything to come between the seal, the rubber seal, and the top of your jar. There's an example of the ring being very discolored, but it doesn't matter. As long as the lid is a new lid and it seals on there, then discoloration doesn't have a thing to, you don't have a thing to worry about. And then our last one. Okay, that's all our canner will take. It is not boiling so far. I've got the water up to here. I'm not sure how much water I'm going to need. I do have a shelf in the bottom. Okay, I've got the canner loaded. There's 7 jars in there. We've got at least a ½ inch, almost an inch above all the jars. And we're going to put this lid on just so the heat will start working faster. In the meantime, I'm continuing to fill these jars for the next batch, and just to see how many I'm going to have. And it looks like I'm going to have 10 pints, which is about right because we almost had 10 pounds of cherries, and a pint is a pound, approximately. So that we are going to have 3 more pints to can, or Papa Bruce sure likes cherry cobbler. Rather than go through this again, we may just use these 3 pints and make a big old cherry cobbler. What do you think, darling? That's what I thought he would say. So, in my elevation at Fort Smith, Arkansas, it says that I need to water bath pints for 15 minutes. So we're going to time this once it starts boiling. It hasn't started boiling yet. There's a few bubbles coming up, but we'll watch it closely until it boils. Then we'll put the lid back on and we'll set the timer for 15 minutes. And I'll bring you back for the final result. Thank you. Okay, my timer went off. It's been 15 minutes. I've opened the lid. The boiling has died down. And so we're going to take these out and put them on a towel. They will continue to bubble for a few minutes. Protect against drafts. You could even put a cloth over it. But in just a few minutes, you'll start hearing it go ping, ping, ping. And when it does that, you know that it's canned, sealed, and ready to go. And you can keep that for years. Now, what am I going to do with that? I can make cherry bread, cherry pie, cherry cobbler. I can add it to cakes. I can add it to brownies for black forest brownies. Just anything. So look in your cookbooks, see what you can do with canned cherries, and enjoy at least 7 pints of cherries. And I thank you very much.